We move because we have hope. The Bible says in Romans chapter 5 by the Apostle Paul, who was from the tribe of Benjamin, who was an Israeli, a Jew, where's David? He was a Jew. He wrote these words. He says, we exult in our tribulations. The tribulations produce perseverance. Perseverance produces character. And character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint. The Greek word for hope there is elpezo. Elpezo means a future expectation of something good is going to happen. Men and women, if we don't believe we can rescue this thing, then we're in trouble. I believe we can rescue this thing. As long as that Constitution is still in play, although they're trampling underfoot much of it right now, it's still there. And we can rescue it and reposition it and recast it into our culture again so that our kids and our children will know what it says and how it functions on their behalf. Mark Levin says something that gives me hope. In his book called Liberty and Tyranny, he says this. He says, conservatism is the antidote to tyranny, precisely because its principles are the founding principles. I stopped and I looked at that. I looked at it twice, and I recognized that the remedy for the maelstrom that we are experiencing in our culture today, the remedy is to return to our founding principles. We've lost our moral compass. We've lost our compass of control for our nation because we've turned against those principles. Many of us don't even know what they are. Matthew Spaulding, in his book titled, We Still Hold These Truths, said there's a need for us to return to the first principles. Those first principles are liberty, equality, the rule of law, the consent of the governed, religious freedom, constitutionalism, independence, the right to private property. These are the principles that made America great. We are exceptional because of those principles. We need to recast them again into our culture. We need to reintroduce them to our children. We need to stand on them and articulate them and continue to push them if we're going to rescue this republic. What will save us is our faith and our confidence in those principles. I believe in those principles. That's why I'm up today. Edmund Burke says all that is required for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Men, we have done nothing for too long. It's time for us to get involved. It's time to be activated. And our activation must be maintained with specificity, intentionality, and focus. We're on a rescue mission, men and women. We're on a rescue mission. This is our moment. This is our moment. We cannot stand by. Let what our God gave us be snatched away by a handful of elitists who care nothing about us, who believe that we're a bunch of stupid sheeple, have no respect for us and for human life, that can think of murdering us and our children while they're yet in their mother's womb. That's Darwinism, men and women. We've got to stop it. That's why I'm up. That's why I'm engaged. I trust that that's why you're up and why you're engaged. This is a special moment. I want to go to Washington. I want to go to Washington because I believe the three threats that we're facing that can be resisted and where we can win. The deliberate attempt to dislodge us of our Judeo-Christian heritage. And they're doing it through an insidious thing called PC, political correctness. It has quieted the church. It has muted us from speaking the divine purposes of God in the marketplace of ideas because it's not politically correct to do so. That is evil. Let me tell you, rather than being PC, I want to be CC, constitutionally correct. I want to be BC. I want to be biblically correct. to dislodge us of our Judeo-Christian heritage, and they're trying to disregard the founding principles to replace it with a socialistic paradigm. And then they're trampling underfoot the Constitution. Men and women, do you know that Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says that the government has a right to protect the states from invasion? Did you know that was in the Constitution? Yeah. It didn't define invasion, it just simply said invasion. That is from a foreign enemy, and it could be that those who are crossing our borders right now illegally are invading us, and it is the responsibility of the government to stop it, our federal government to stop it. They haven't done it. They're not living up to their Constitution. And I submit to you, not by accident, it's by design. How many of you have heard of the Flower Pivot theory of orchestrated manufactured crises? This is a theory that was crafted by two professors out of Columbia University back in the 1960s. Flower Pivot and his wife, Cloward and his wife Piven, who wrote this strategy based upon Marxism that says that you overload the bureaucracy with so much demand that it breaks down. In other words, you create crises. Order, chaos, new world order. And when this administration took office, I want you to think with me, crises after crises after crises happened, unlike anything that we've ever seen in our country before. Crises in the automotive industry, crises in the banking industry, crises in the credit card business, crises in the mortgage business, crises in the automotive business, crises in healthcare. It was just crises after crises after crises. I want to submit to you, it was not by natural forces. Could it have been by unnatural forces? Isn't it odd that the government responded so slow to the oil spill?
Oh, yeah.
Really kind of waffled and wavered and hesitated. I submit to you that may be Cloward Pivot in action, men and women, to create crises, uncertainty, and insecurity among us, such that we would demand that our government does something, and they would say, we'll be glad to do something, and they'll come in and take over. We must be careful, men and women, about these crises. I think a lot of it is contrived. Somebody's putting sugar in the economic engine of this nation, the strongest economic engine in the world. Don't tell me that that's by natural forces. I believe it's by design. If they can break our economy, they can replace our system with something new. How do you stop this? I think you stop it by sending men and women who recognize that the free enterprise system best work when you deregulate businesses and allow them to innovate and create. The economic engine in America are small businesses. They create 90% of the jobs. And if this government is serious about getting out of this economic crisis that we're in, two things must happen, and this is what I'll do. My priorities when I go to Washington, D.C. Number one is to repeal this health care bill. That's number one. Number two, to stop this unsustainable spending that's going on, right? We cannot sustain it. We've got to put a freeze on spending, and it's got to happen simultaneously with reinstituting the Bush tax cuts. Right. We ought to make it permanent, make it a law. Then we'll see a turnaround. We'll see a real turnaround in America today. That's got to happen. That's why I'm running. I want to go to Washington, D.C. And I know you're not in my district, but what I do in government has an impact on this district. Yes, so you want to send men and women who recognize the value of our Constitution and why we must rescue this republic. See, America sprang forth out of a religious-based heritage of liberty under law. And the essence of liberty is the proper limitation of government.